to this month's webinar from the ER Studio team. And we're going to be talking about what's new in ER Studio. This is Tim, and let's jump into what's new in ER Studio 21.0. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about, what ER Studio is, give a little refresher on that and its view of enterprise data modeling. Then we're going to get really to the crux of the matter for this webinar, these new great features that are in ER Studio 21.0. I'm going to show them actually in the product, so it won't be just boring all the slides for you guys. And then, as I said, question and answers at the end. So what is ER Studio? I just have this this slide up because everybody that has joined will get or has registered for the webinar will get a recording of this webinar, a link to it. That way you can share it with your colleagues. And it's really important to understand what ER Studio is all about. It's really an entire solution about enterprise data modeling, the control and curation of those metadata assets. Conceptual, logical, and physical modeling on a variety of different approaches and platforms, anywhere from relational modeling to document or hierarchical modeling. It's all included. We also have with our ER Studio Enterprise Edition, which I will be demonstrating today, what we call Team Server Core, which you can think of as your ER Studio web portal for that team collaboration and the repository. I'm going to get into a little bit deeper as I go through the different modules here in a sec of what ER Studio Enterprise is. So ER Studio Enterprise really has three different functional blocks to it, if you will. It has Data Architect, where your modelers and architects are going to be spending their time doing those things associated with the design and curation and really development and documentation of those metadata assets. It's a desktop application, and it's pretty much licensed by seat. As I said, it's where your architects and modelers are going to be spending their time. We do have a Git feature that came out a few versions ago, where you could put that DDL or JSON straight into GitHub, GitLab, Atlassian Bitbuckets, Azure repos, those kinds of things to help support your integration with your DevOps or CI/CD. The second part of ER Studio Enterprise is really this idea of a central source of truth, right? This repository, and it turns Data Architect into somewhat of a thick client, and this repository stores all those thousands of metadata objects that are associated with your models, and provides a means of linking them together to build the foundations for an enterprise metadata management program. Does this all through model sharing and object sharing, model versioning, and it does this through a check-in and check-out process. Because that database, that repository is live and getting updated with the changes your modelers and architects might be making in Data Architect, we have the ability to have, and ER Studio Enterprise has what we call Team Server Core. And that's your ER Studio web portal I was referring to earlier. And this is really where Data Architect is used by your data modelers and data architects. Team Server Core, since it is a web-based application and it is an unlimited use license, let's really any other role within your organization, come in, work with, and collaborate on those great objects the modelers and architects have been busy documenting, defining, and describing. The other thing Team Server Core does is through purpose-built integrations. We have an integration to leading data catalog and data governance applications. The two we presently support are both Calibra and Purview. There are other data catalogs that are on the roadmap, and be sure to talk to your sales representative or account executive, and I'll have a link to that or a way to contact them at the last slide if you want more information on anything I'm talking about or on these integrations to our data catalog and data governance application. So now we're getting into our Studio 21 overview. So we have an updated interface. Uh, we have an updated interface. We've updated the icons. We have a way to change the fonts within them. We've added an AI help chatbot. Uh, we have repository access now. We have had via entry, so you would Entra, Microsoft Entra. So we have had that in the tool for a while, but we've added Okta now, an Open ID Connect. So now if you have to be in a situation where you're using Okta, you can use that for your repository login. And this is really the one I'm going to be digging into very deeply here today. Is this idea of external view support via these replicate tables that have been added, which is a new object that's been added to Data Architect to help support these external references to schemas that are outside the schema that you are using. Very important in particularly in your data warehousing design and support. For our updated interface, just a slide here. I'll be showing it in the product here, but as I said, we've updated the icons, the look and feel of a lot of our wizards. Had those old kind of graphics in them. We've cleaned that up. It's much more common and consistent across all the utilities and features within the tool now. Updated fonts, and this is a feature that many have asked for a long time, and I'll be showcasing that the ability to change the font in your object trees and other places to something that might be more readable for you. Um, uh, Wizard layouts and icon set I already spoke about, and this new welcome page. We've actually come out with a new welcome page with uh, your Studio version 21, and it has a lot more functionality. I'll be talking about that once we get there. Oh, and it is an enhanced user experience. Yeah, AI Help Chatbot. I'm going to be using this in the tool. I have this just so you can refer to it later. And this information, by the way, is right from erstudio.com, and there's a link right there to what's new in ER Studio 21 if you want to refer to it later. I'll be using this in the tool here in a bit, so I'm not going to go through and read all this to you. But the idea here is, and what we've tried to provide is a way, particularly for newer users and that kind of roles that might not be just doing data modeling full time and might be a role they have to take on part time and not familiar with how the tool works or data modeling in general. That AI help chatbot will really help them, hit the ground fast, get up to speed fast, and learn how the tool thinks about things and how to achieve things within the tool using the features that are available. Talked about this a little bit on the intro. That was a big request. A lot of folks use Okta and OpenID Connect, and the idea of being able to sign in at the client level, at the data architect level, using your SSO is just a great implementation to help just come in line with the organizational identity standards. External view support. I'm going to be digging into this. So remember, or it says here, and it's something to remember that this external view support for via the replica tables is supported for SQL Server, Synapse, and Snowflake at this point. Other platforms will be added as we go forward. And we're going to be doing a reverse engineered process to show you the value of this. It does auto create these replicatable objects, which are the new objects I mentioned earlier. And this helps you, and this is really for me the big takeaway here. These external dependencies. When I think about this feature and how best use, best practice, it really sings to me in terms of like an enterprise data warehouse and its gold layer, where the gold layer may be just a series of views that are looking back at your enterprise data store or other sources, and the ability to reverse engineer and get that really uh, capture those dependencies in your gold layer model is very, very important and poignant. So I'll be talking through that. The enterprise data warehouse and a medallion approach is really under part of this idea of enterprise data modeling and really the concept of creating knowledge, right? So I talk about these slides in my demos if you've attended one, and I'm sure my colleagues go through this. So I won't go too much into depth on it here today, but the idea of pointing data architect at a source, getting a physical and a logical model, and the platform agnosticity of our logical models really helps the tool provide a consistent and clear means of documenting your sources across many different platforms. And of course, that logical model is where that creating knowledge journey really happens using features like naming standards templates and our data security features and properties, such as, is this PII or GDPR or HIPAA? Those kind of compliance and regulatory factors can be all added in. And then, of course, you can tie it up into your data governance. And I'm going to show this in the tool here today. So just kind of mentally refer back to this. Say, yeah, hey, I understand what Tim's doing. He's tying this all together. So this, in this case, this external view can be part of our governed enterprise data program. And of course, I had to throw in my favorite, most complex slide in the world. I know. We're going to be concentrating up here today in this idea of the data products that might have already been created, right? So we're going to be looking at reverse engineering a gold layer data product, and the rest of this slide, if you haven't seen it before, as I said, it is the world's busiest slide, but I think it's a very good one because it shows the end game of what's possible with ER Studio Enterprise, and the idea here of tying everything into an enterprise logical model, a master domain model, those kinds of facilities where it becomes the master meaning model, your master template for what is a customer, what is an order, what is a company, or any of those other key concepts that you might have to deal with in your particular organization. And then tying that in at the project level, regardless of physical implementation, where the physical models and obviously the implementation or DDL or JSON it creates will be different for each project. You're going to get those commonalities at the project, at the logical model level that can tie that all together and ensure that consistency of definition, design, and documentation that a governance program just keenly relies on. So that's why I threw this slide in here. So now we get to the fun part, folks. It's our demonstration. So let's jump into the tool. I'm going to start in Data Architect. I'm going to talk about a few of the things that we've added here. So for those of you that might have been using Data Architect for a while now, you can see this is completely a different color scheme. This is the welcome page that I'm showing you here. It has, we furthered the idea of having great links to erstudio.com if you want to read about our key integrations, see videos, go straight to our learning resources. It's all there for you, uh, right at your fingertips now. And if you're a new user or have new users to the application on your team or in your organization, these links are a great place for them to start. We even have a quick start guide and an overview link to a link to an overview video, I should say. All right. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to the AI chatbot. And now if you notice, I go to the little triangle there next to the question mark, we have this help chatbot, help AI chatbot. Now it is, I guess they call it demodal. The idea is this is not tied into data architect. In fact, I can shrink data architect here, make it maybe that size for us. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Just drag it up. I could probably do the window splitter here if I was really smart. But say we got data architect here and you're coming in as a new user, you could ask a question. We're all used to AI and we're using, I believe, GPT-5 for this. So, show and Tim's typing skills on display. Show me how to reverse engineer a database. I had a colleague that was testing this, and I actually asked it. I don't feel well. I feel ill. What should I do? And it gave him some recommendations on that. So it is full featured chat. Show me how. Well, I hopefully he understands my misspelling there. All right, so you can see here it's given us some direction here. So choose file new. We could do that and file new, and we could do that by starting the reverse engineering database and then log in. So the way I like to start that is go to the tools menu, and a reverse engineer is there too. There's many ways to do these features. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. You get the reverse engineer wizard, and I'm gonna jump into data architect without this emphasis, but I just want to let you know that this AI chatbot is there for you, and it's a great addition to really instead of having to sort through our doc wiki that has great information, it's there at your fingertips now. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. Oh, close this down there. Oh, sorry. It is demodal, so I had to do that first. Okay, let's start this reverse engineer process. Those of you that have been around the tool a while notice, we got rid of those graphics that kind of were showing, graphically a reverse engineering process or something. We've cleaned those up. We've really kind of just gone through the tool and kind of modernized a lot of these, particularly these wizards now. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to work with Snowflake today. So you can see the reverse engineer process. The wizard is up. It's asking me what do I want to connect to and what type. We have native or direct connections or ODBC connections. Native or direct connections just means the client or driver is built into the tool. With Snowflake, you use the ODBC. If you hit the setup button, if you notice that this applet is the Windows ODBC 64-bit DSN applet, comes with Windows, and I do have a Snowflake DSN that is already created here for me. So I'm going to go ahead and reference that. I'm going to use another facility that you might not be aware of in the tool called a quick launch. Now, all our wizards have the ability to save a quick launch file at the end of the wizard's dialogue with you. They're great time savers. I'm going to use it for Snowflake here and reference one I have. I happen to call it demo Snowflake RVO file, and it's going to load that in. The reason I'm using it is those of you might check out this password, this client secret. I don't want to be typing that in. They are just great time savers. And now that I've entered that information in, if I hit the go button here, it would do everything that's in that file for the last time I went through this process with the quick launch. But I can use just the quick launch for the credentials, and instead of hitting go, hit next. And that's what I'm going to do here. And I've chosen wisely. I've connected. It knows where I'm connecting to. And of course, now I have the database list. I can get under the ellipsis. Notice the font size here. And once we have a model, you'll see the larger font. I've increased that. That's part of the changes we've added to 21.0, and I'll actually show you how you can get to there right off the tools menu to enhance this. And I've made it bigger because they were quite small, especially for the demonstrations I give. We're going to go ahead and get a small model here that's going to show a representation of some views in a data warehouse at our gold layer here. So that's my correct choice here for us on this pass. And I'm going to get all owners for it. And of course, I'm going to get the user views for it. I'm going to go through here next. See, I don't have any tables there. Isn't that interesting? So it's looked at that schema. There are no tables, but yes, there are views. This is the change. Before 21.0, you could do this with Data Architect, but it would give you invalid views, right? It would read that view when it's reverse engineering that schema, and it would say, hey, this view is pointed somewhere I don't know about. Now we've updated the application such that it will actually descend, recursively into those other schemas and find those objects and create actually replica tables of that new object. So I'm going to leave that how it is. I'm going to hit next, and I'm going to keep these features all these selections as I have them there. I could append a naming standards template here, but I'm not going to do that for us today. We do have a webinar. One of my colleagues, John, in fact, did that you can find on our resource center that went into naming standards templates and other features. And I really invite you to use that resource center. It is very, very good. Snowflake, we're getting the views. Here's that save for quick launch. So if when I referenced it on page one, if you want to do this and create one for yourself, and those are, as I showed you, it creates that RVO file, that quick launch file. Those can be shared and those kinds of things across your organization, depending on how you handle that. So I'm going to go ahead and finish here. It's going to go off to Snowflake, and before it does, we got this pop-up. This is telling you exclamation point. I need to tell you something important. So let's read through this a little bit. And what it's saying is there's a parent table or view of this dim date VW view that was not selected. So in other words, that view has referenced a parent or a parent table that isn't in the schema. This is where it would be an invalid view in versions prior to 21. This is telling you now it's going to kick in and create those replica tables for you. I'm going to say okay here. It's going to go on and go through its merry way to get the rest of those views. And I think there are just 3 in this particular schema. That should give us a very good idea of how this feature now works. So I'm going to close the dialog. I'm going to draw your attention before we get into the model here. Look, this is the font change as well here. See the larger font, the different icons now that are much more, I think, representative of the type of objects you're dealing with. You know your attributes, everything is there. It's just a lot cleaner. I've increased the font size and actually using a different font in my object tree. I promised I'd show you where you get to that is tools and options, and right there, Explorer tree font. You can hit set font. I have it on Arial 14, but hey, you want to use Baskerville Old Face, knock yourself out. The world's your oyster on that. So let's go ahead and talk about what we've brought back here now. So we've got, as Data Architect always does, there is a setting to turn it off, but it's got as a logical and a physical model. We're going to work with our physical model because that's where these replica tables have really come back in. So these new yellow objects, these yellow dotted line objects that you're seeing here, these are our replica tables, and obviously these are the views here. And if these replica tables are just a reference point. As a matter of fact, this is really getting into that. Some folks call it view lineage. It's really saying, hey, I've reversed engineered these 3 views it's looking at these three tables or these two tables. Let's take a look at a replica table. Notice replica table editor. So it's a new object type. Double clicking on any object in Data Architect brings you into that object type's editor. We have a replica table editor for it, but you can notice that it's brought back the column names and data types. I guess that's a max for Snowflake there. And anything else that would have been in Snowflake, if there was any notes, those kinds of things are definition, if there was a definition on the table. All that is there, but let's just say cancel here. But we don't have a lot of information on that as yet. I mean, it's not part of our enterprise data program. So now let's work on getting these views part of our enterprise data program, much as you would if you were doing this in a gold or presentation layer for your views at that level, trying to figure out what they're pointed at and what they're really uh, what their meaning is and impact, or not impact, but what their scope is, what objects that they're dealing with at your data store or your data source level. So let's do the next step that I would take here, which is to go to model and add new. Now that add new is I'm adding a new physical model to this model file. It's just called model 2 right now, but I'm going to add another physical model to it. And the model I'm going to add is a representation of perhaps your enterprise data store, your silver layer. So I'm going to call this silver. It's a physical model, and I'm going to reverse engineer this physical model from a database. I'm going to hit next here. Again, I got the reverse engineering or the connection dialog. I'm going to use ODBC here. I'm going to use that same quick launch file, so I don't have to get that client secret in, demo Snowflake. Let's see if I've chosen wisely. And it appears I have. I'm not going to hit the go button here. I'm going to go through this dialog, hit next. This time I'm not going to get the gold views. I'm going to get a different our silver layer data our schema QRST, and I'm going to get this TRNG DB. Select that. It's there now, and I could bring back the other objects depending on what I want to bring back for it. If I don't necessarily have to have any views at the silver layer. Hopefully, I'm keeping all those at my presentation layer. You know what owners? I'm going to get all owners at this level. If you know your specific owners that your gold layer uses, you might want to just select those. But I'm going to use all owners here. I'm going to hit next. It's pre-selected the tables. Let's make this a little bigger so y'all can see. My font's bigger. It's pre-selected those tables. None of the other objects were selected on the previous screen. So I'm going to hit next here. And I think I'm good to go. Let's not use our naming standards templates here because I don't want to confuse things. And we're going to go ahead and hit finish here. So it's going off to Snowflake again to that different schema, that TRNG DB schema, and reverse engineering those objects to include them into this model project. All right, once this gets done, close the dialog. So now we got, if you've seen, as I say, if you've seen my demos, now familiar, or any of my colleagues' demos, we use this TRNG model very, very extensively. This fit model, so you guys can see this. So now we have this silver data warehouse physical model. Maybe this is, obviously quite small. Your enterprise data store would be a lot bigger than this, obviously, but you get the idea and the concept of how this feature can be applied. So I've included those objects into this model file. So now that actually on this physical, I'm going to rename this so you guys can follow along with me better. This is our gold layer views PM, but that's fine. So we got our gold. I'm just dangerous with the keyboard today. All right. So we have our gold layer views physical that you're seeing here. Now we have our silver layer that was actually pointed at. So now how do we look at the connectivity? If you notice, uh, we have another feature called compare and merge. Anytime you in the tool, it's probably to me the most powerful feature we have within the Enterprise Team Edition and the other editions of Data Architect. Compare and merge. Anytime you want to know the difference between some model A or some model object A and some model or object B, you want to report on those differences. You want to merge changes from one to the other. Then compare and merge. Compare and merge should pop right into your head. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start on my gold layer and I'm going to do a compare and merge right here for us today. I'm going to compare this gold layer views physical to that silver layer data warehouse physical model. So it's another model in this file. I could have done it, by the way, just in the repository, but this is the way I'd like to proceed with it. So we're going to go ahead and select that. And I'm going to compare this gold layer against the silver layer that I've brought in. Hit next. Just notice, by the way, again, the fonts on the nice and big and easy to read now, and all these dialogues. Just a great change. I know I'm raving about it, but I truly do love that new feature as well. So we're going to compare or actually look at everything. And now on this page, it's saying, hey, in my gold model, I found this AMP and full-time AMP. I have these tables. I'm comparing A against B here. That looks good to me. And this page of compare and merge is the real page where things are coming together. There's a lot of functionality in this page. It says, hey, I found this stuff in my gold layer or in my model A. I found this stuff in the model I'm comparing against. Now it hasn't made matches there, so this is a functionality that I know I'm droning on, and I am a bit monotone, but really perk up here a little bit and watch this because a lot of people ask about this and don't know this exists. So watch this. I'm going to select that AMP table. And I'm going to right click on this EMP table. I'm going to say those objects are matched. I'm making those matches. Full-time EMP, because, obviously full-time EMP, it's easy for it to see, and we could have done it that way. But a lot of times you're making matches based upon things that might have different names and those kinds of things. So that's a feature that everybody struggles to kind of find until they know it. So I'm selecting on the left, and I'm right-clicking on the right, and I'm saying match those objects. And now it's saying those matches. And so what do I want to do here? Now that I've made those matches, I probably want to have some of that information put in or brought in and linked from my silver layer to my gold layer on the EMP table. I'm going to do that same selection, merge into current, see the little arrow pointed this way, and very important, save the matches here. When you hit the save matches checkbox, it gives you some options here. It's probably safe in most cases to take the standards, save as universal mappings, the entity and attribute, and, shape and view. It's all good. We're going to say OK here, and I'm going to say finish. And now, if we take a look at the EMP table, this replica EMP table, look at where used. It now knows that this replica table in my gold model for these views, this entity in a replica table EMP has a logical entity EMP, but it also has a link to that silver data warehouse PM physical model that's on Snowflake. And there's the table name, and I can look. Notice this little icon tells you it has that replica link here. I can come over here now, switch right to that table, and see that at the physical layer. That's a really powerful feature there. Now I can see the columns, those kinds of things that are associated with it. Very, very powerful there. Not quite done. So the next thing I would do with this now is I would say, hey, I want to bring this into my enterprise program, because until you save this model two we're dealing with into your repository, those universal mappings don't become real until the project is saved in the repository. So you would go through, you'd hit repository, log in, and by the way, this is that feature, log in via SSO, that now currently supports Okta as well. So I would log in, say okay, and do as my features get lit up, I would add this diagram and go into the add diagram dialog here. Probably give it a better name than Model 2, right? Give it a better name. Perhaps you want to connect the enterprise data dictionaries. Again, we have a webinar on those. You can find on a resource center. Maybe name this diagram not data model, but maybe gold layer, or your presentation services, or however you want to name that. Let's pretend I said okay here. I'm really going to hit cancel, because over here in this other window, I have this same model already added to the repository. Uh, you can see it's added to the repository because now we have these really easy to see green open padlocks, right? We always had those little tiny green ones. People kind of, you know how you ignore the little specks that might be on your screen. But now with the larger fonts, these great new icons, you can see green and open. But anytime you see padlocks, you know you're dealing with a repository cognizant model. Now this model is in the repository, and once it's part of the repository, you could start using some other facilities. So I'm going to go back to that silver physical, I'm sorry, on that gold physical model. I was there already, Ken. And now that it's part, we got yet more features we can really use to flesh this model out to make it part of our enterprise program. So I'm going to go back into that EMP replica table, and there's our where used. You saw this a minute ago, but look here. Ooh, a glossary tab. A glossary tab. Remember that slide I showed you early on? The real busy one, and the creating knowledge series as well. That idea of linking in those objects into your enterprise data program and its governance, perhaps even over to Libra or Purview. This idea of a term within a glossary is really fundamental. What you're seeing here is a term relationship from this human resources. If I hit the add term, it might be easier for you all to see because it's not blue shaded. This employee term in this human resources glossary that could have come across from Calibra or Purview has been linked. I can make that term relationship here if I want to. The co-employment is also linked, so it's one to many or none there. As I can make that relationship here. I could make the relationship up into the web portal. I'll show you here in a little bit, or it could have been made over in Calibra in your data governance, in your data catalog in Calibra or Purview, and brought across in the interface. But by the way, it comes free with the RStudio Enterprise. Both those interfaces, Calibra and Purview, are there for you right out of the box. So just remember that this employee term has been related, has been linked here to this replica table, this replica emp table, right? The reason that's important is now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and go into the collaboration portal to show it kind of all the way through, if you will, stem to stern. So we're going to go into the web portal here. You saw me in my workstation here. Switch over to the Team Server tab. Notice we've updated that. Those of you that might be present RStudio Enterprise customers, uh, hopefully you have Team Server up and running and it's working great for you. We've updated its look and feel, the welcome page, again with its great links, and we've completely revamped it to give you even more information right here at your fingertips. And now that I'm logged in, I'm going to take a look at that model. Now that I'm not logged in, now that I'm logged in, I'm going to go into my ER tools where you can see the models. I'm going to go into my data catalog, and I happen to put that under my PRD folder, and there it is, the gold training views model. And I'm going to look at that gold physical model. And there it is. You get the flyover help. I say this in every demo. It still cracks me up even after all these years. That little icon on the end is literally an eyeball with an eyebrow, right? So it is an icon. So one of our developers had a sense of humor, but it's stuck there. There, so there I can click on this, and there I'm looking at that same model you're just seeing in Data Architect. But of course, I can zoom out and zoom in. I can print this. It dates me, but I remember, ER diagrams and that kind of stuff printed out on plotters, running them down cube and office walls, trying to kind of use my finger to figure out relationships and where they connect. Those days are gone because this is much more than a static image. I can click on any object here and go and read all about that object. So let's continue to pick on our emp table here. Again, it's yellow. You're looking at a replica table. Let's click on this. So it's telling you that. I can see the columns that are involved. I can see there's no DDL associated with a replica table, but I can see where it's used, and you can see that it's used uh, where it's been linked to in that model. I also have the ability here on related terms to see the term. Remember that employee term had been linked to it. Again, I can use the relate. I can relate here, right? So you don't have to have Data Architect on your desktop to make those term relations. In fact, you can start a data governance initiative right in ER Studio Enterprise without having to have a link over to data governance Calibra or Purview. But obviously, if you have that, we do have the ability to integrate that where that governance really kind of lives. Let's go back to our view. Let's take a look at an employee. Now we're looking at that employee term, and we can look at its entire taxonomy, right, all the way down from the top level party, look at its children. And I can, if that doesn't knock your socks off, you can look at that employee term here. You can even see the ER objects where it's been associated. Right. So there it is in the gold training views, on the gold physical, on the emp table. You can use the slider to expand all this. Notice that, not notice, but remember we are using a web browser here, right? A standard browser. You can see which one I'm using here. These links are real. So if I'm using, say, Microsoft Teams, I could send this link to my colleague, say, hey, take a look at this, or any object I click on, and that link is valid for them. They can click on it. It'll make them log in again, and you can log in to the server core or the ER web portal with your SSO again. So your Microsoft Entra, your Okta OpenID Connect, your RSA Secure ID, your domain credentials, the ER Studio credentials. There's a lot of ways to get in. These links are real. Send it to them. They'll come straight in and look at it. And on any object, let's go back onto that employee term. I could start, I could start a discussion on it, on any object, start a new discussion. Anybody that's following this particular object, you can follow objects at the model and project level. You start a new discussion, they'll get an email. Hey, go chime in. In this case, Tim started a new discussion on maybe a change or a revision to the definition of the employee term. So all that is available to you right through the collaboration portal. All right. So let's go back to where we once belonged. That was my demonstration. I hope you got a lot out of it. Our key takeaways you saw, and I kind of harped on the idea of a modernized UI, our AI Help Chatbot, our Okta SSO integration here, and our support for views with these external table references. All right, that's what we've covered today. The questions, I'll check. I trust that my colleagues have been answered. I don't see any questions in the question block. Uh, we'll pause a couple minutes here. Uh, you know, those of you who might have joined late, right in the go to meeting or go to webinar applet, there is a questions area. You can submit a question in. I'll pause in case anybody has any last minute questions for us. Not seeing anybody, so either I completely confused you all or I did a great job. I'm not sure which. Hopefully, as I said, you understand the new features, particularly the external views with replica tables. That's a great new feature. And with that, I'll show the last slide here, that QR code where you can go in or you can always find your rep right there, the email, or sales@idera.com. I'd like to thank you for attending today and see you next time.